Tonight, let's quietly travel far back in time to a place very dry and warm, where the sun kisses the earth with gentle heat. There, under vast blue skies, lived a man named Abraham. He was a traveler, a thinker, a man who spoke softly with the land and the sky around him. His home was a simple tent, set among the trees near great ancient oaks. The air was calm and filled with the soft sounds of the desert, whispers of wind, the quiet rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds. Abraham sat outside his tent one gentle afternoon, the ground warm beneath him. His days were often spent this way, looking to the horizon, thinking deeply, perhaps wondering about the stories that filled his heart. It was a time long before cities crowded the earth, long before many people had wandered far from their beginnings. His life was close to the earth, close to the rhythms of nature's slow breath. As he rested, a faint sound stirred the stillness, not a sound to startle, but like a gentle step on soft sand. He looked up. From the shimmering heat of the day, 3 visitors appeared, quietly approaching, their presence peaceful and strange. These visitors were not ordinary travelers. They were angels, beings from the unseen world, sent in kindness and with messages. Abraham noticed them and felt an old, deep respect rising inside. He softly rose from his place on the ground and moved toward them. It was part of his nature to welcome strangers, to care for anyone who came his way. So with a quiet smile, he walked gently to meet these visitors. "My lords," he said, bowing his head slightly, a warm welcome in his voice. "Please rest here. Let me bring water to wash your feet. Come, you must be weary from the journey." His movements were calm, careful, as if each small act was a tender prayer. The angels accepted his kindness, settling near his tent. Abraham quickly brought a bowl of cool water and a cloth. He knelt and gently washed their feet, wiping them with care, as the sun gradually dipped lower in the sky, casting soft golden tones over the land. Then inside the tent he prepared a simple meal, some bread, freshly baked, warm and fragrant, curds and milk, creamy and cool, and a tender calf, slow-cooked with herbs from his garden. The scent of the food mingled with the dry desert air, creating a quiet magic. Abraham served the meal himself, moving slowly, as if every motion was a gentle blessing. They ate together in a calm circle, the world outside fading into quiet shadows. The angel spoke softly, words like gentle breezes full of quiet warmth and strange peace. They told Abraham that they had come with a message, news to share. One among them, his voice smooth and steady, said, "Abraham, your wife Sarah will soon have a son." The words hung softly in the air, like a secret the wind carries through the trees. Abraham blinked slowly, a faint smile leaving his lips, touched by the strange wonder of what he heard. Sarah was near, not far from the tent, and yet the promise seemed light and impossible, like a seed ready to grow in dry earth. The angel's words were gentle but sure. "Your son will be named Isaac. His birth will bring joy, just as the stars bring light in the night sky." For a moment, silence wrapped them like a soft blanket. Abraham's thoughts drifted quietly, a river flowing slowly, filled with both hope and questions. Sarah's laughter mingled with the wind beyond the tent, for she too had heard the words, though she was inside, not yet understanding what such a day could truly mean. The evening grew deeper, and the stars began to wink softly above. The angels rested, their faces calm and kind, watching over Abraham and his family in the quiet night. And as the gentle night wrapped the land in its calm embrace, Abraham remained near the visitors, his heart slow, his mind gently turning the new promise, the silent music of what might be, as the quiet desert whispered around them. The night whispered its quiet secrets, a soft symphony of desert stillness under the glittering dome of stars. Abraham remained seated just beyond his tent's entrance, the flickering glow of a small fire casting dancing shadows on the sand. The soft pulse of the earth beneath him felt steady and reassuring, like a heartbeat tuned to patience and promises yet fulfilled. The 3 visitors, resting nearby, spoke no more, their presence alone enough to fill the air with calm and sacredness. Their eyes held the depths of unspoken knowledge, horizons beyond human sight, but here beside Abraham, they gave space for silence to speak. Abraham's thoughts wandered, a gentle stream weaving through hope and hesitation. The promise of a son, a child born to Sarah and himself in the warmth of old age, seemed both a miracle and a mystery. How could life unfold so strangely, so fully against the grain of years. Still his heart embraced the possibility, that tender spark of trust that often glows the brightest when the world feels uncertain. As the embers of the fire softened, he turned his gaze toward the sleeping forms of Sarah and the visitors. Sarah's breath rose steady and even, soft as the night breeze carrying the fragrance of dry earth and distant blossoms. To Abraham she seemed like one of those rare, quiet miracles, her presence a gentle anchor through joys and trials alike. The tent walls fluttered softly, a small familiar sound that spoke of comfort and home. Inside, the warmth gathered slowly, inviting rest but not yet demanding it. Abraham reached out, folding his hands together, and let his mind drift to the story the angels had shared. Isaac, a name heavy with promise, light with future joy. He whispered it softly, as though tasting the sound itself. Isaac. The syllables carried a rhythm that settled in his chest, a soft reassurance that the name, the promise, was already part of their lives now, planted like a seed, waiting to break through the soil. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves of the ancient oaks that stood like silent guardians near his tent. Their long shadows stretched across the sand like welcoming arms. Abraham smiled faintly, picturing the boy they spoke of, quick and lively beneath these very branches, laughing and running free as the warm winds. He thought of the years before, the winding roads that had brought him here, from the fertile plains of Ur to this quiet, sun-baked land. Endless days of travel, prayers whispered under open skies, moments of faith tested and deepened. Now, beneath these stars, something new was growing, fragile but beautiful. The first hint of dawn rose slowly, a soft wash of pale pink that brushed away the deepest darkness. Sarah stirred, her eyes opening to the gentle light, meeting Abraham's gaze with a quiet smile. Though she had laughed earlier, unaware of the full promise, there was now a softness in her eyes, a seed of hope taking root. Her hand found his, their fingers entwining in a simple, steadfast bond. The visitors prepared to leave, their figures glowing faintly in the morning light. Before stepping into the world beyond sight and sound, the foremost angel's voice was a gentle murmur, carried by the dry air. Be steadfast, Abraham. What has been promised will come to life in time. With a final serene gesture, the angels vanished as silently as they had come, leaving behind a calm stillness filled with new beginnings. Abraham and Sarah remained together, their hearts linked by the quiet strength of belief. The day stretched ahead, vast and open. Somewhere within its unfolding hours, life was already stirring, soft, irrevocable, wonderful. And so the promise lived, breathed, and waited, wrapped in the tender embrace of the desert's endless sky. The morning air held a tender stillness. The sun, just beginning to rise over the horizon, cast soft strands of golden light across the sandy earth. Its embrace was gentle, painting the landscape with warm hues that whispered of hope and renewal. Abraham stood outside the opening of his tent, feeling the cool air brush against his face. His eyes traced the vast expanse of the desert stretching beyond, the endless sky meeting the earth in a seamless horizon. It was as if the world itself paused, waiting to witness the unfolding of the promise. Beside him, Sarah emerged softly, wrapping a light cloth around her shoulders. Her gaze met his, carrying memories of laughter and tears, years of wandering and waiting. That peaceful smile lingered on her lips, a quiet reassurance that connected their hearts without need for words. Together they looked to a cluster of ancient oaks standing sentinel nearby, their branches steady in the morning breeze. Abraham envisioned a boy, laughing beneath those trees, embracing the simple joys of youth, running barefoot on the earth, learning the stories of their people, beloved and cherished. The name Isaac echoed gently in his mind, woven with the fabric of their future. As the warmth of the sun grew, Abraham felt a deep calm settle within him. The promise, fragile yet firm, was no longer just a vision but a living hope, kindled in his soul. Inside the tent, the remnants of the visitors' presence remained, a small fire smoldering faintly, the sweet aroma of freshly baked bread lingering in the air. Time seemed to slow, allowing Abraham and Sarah to savor this profound moment, suspended between past journeys and the endless possibilities ahead. Abraham knelt briefly, gathering the soft sand in his hands. He marveled at its grains, countless and countless, like the stars above that had once marked the days of his own wandering. Each grain a silent testament to faith, endurance, and the promises that endure through ages. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying with it the faint rustle of leaves and the distant call of a desert bird. It was a sound both familiar and sacred, reminding them of the life that thrives even in the quietest places. The day unfolded slowly. Abraham and Sarah moved with gentle purpose, preparing their humble meal with hands steady from years of toil. They spoke little, their thoughts intertwined, wrapped in a sacred trust that stretched beyond what eyes could see. As the sun climbed higher, shadows receded, revealing details of the landscape made vibrant in the light. The vineyards and groves near their camp hinted at future harvests yet to come, symbols of blessing and nurturing care. Abraham caught sight of a small child playing nearby, a son of a neighboring nomad family. The boy's laughter rose like a melody on the wind, simple and pure. The sound stirred something deep within Abraham's heart, mingling with the joy and anticipation he held for Isaac. Hours passed, marked by the rhythm of desert life. The slow turning of the sun overhead mirrored the steady unfolding of faith within Abraham's spirit. He felt the sacred weight of the promise, no longer distant or uncertain, but alive and breathing in the quiet moments of the day. As afternoon approached, Abraham walked to a rising hill overlooking their camp. From this vantage, the land spread wide, a tapestry of earth and sky, stone and sand. The vastness humbled him, yet also filled him with a profound sense of belonging. Here, in this place both ancient and new, the covenant seemed to pulse with renewed strength. The promise intertwined with every breath he took, every step he made. Back at the tent, Sarah tended to their modest household, her movements serene and measured. In her eyes shone a mix of tenderness and unwavering faith, the kind born from years of shared hope and unspoken prayers. The evening light softened, casting long shadows that danced beneath the oaks. Abraham returned to sit once more beneath their branches, his gaze drifting upward to the first glimmers of stars appearing in the deepening sky. He remembered the nights of old, counting stars, clutching to the words whispered by the divine promise. Those words now took flesh in the womb of hope between him and Sarah. His heart swelled as he spoke quietly, a prayer carried on the cool night breeze. May this child bring laughter, as his name says. May he grow strong and walk in the ways of righteousness, and may the promises made be fulfilled in good time, under the watchful eyes of heaven. The desert night deepened. Vast and still, the moon rose slowly, casting a silver glow that kissed the earth with gentle light. Abraham and Sarah sat side by side, their hands touching, a silent bond against the eternal night. In this quiet space, faith took root. Though the years ahead would hold challenges unseen, the seed of promise blossomed within them, nurtured by love and divine assurance. The journey that had brought them here continued, not marked by the miles traveled, but by the steadfastness of their hearts. Together they waited, embraced by the desert's sacred silence and the endless sky above, and beneath that sky, the promise waited to be born anew. The night wrapped the desert in a blanket of quiet, punctuated only by distant calls of owls and the rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle wind. Abraham's eyes traced the patterns of the stars overhead. He could almost count the endless fires above, each one a glowing promise, sure and steady. The vastness of heaven seemed humbling, yet it was here, beneath this vastness, that his faith grew roots deep and real. Beside him, Sarah's breathing was slow and steady, a peaceful rhythm that matched the soft sigh of the earth. Her presence was a quiet comfort. The dry air was cool now, touched with the lingering warmth of the day. Together they sat on the rough ground, their hands joined, fingers curling easily around each other's. Abraham whispered a prayer, not for himself alone, but for the child who would come, a child who would be laughter made flesh, a living testament to hope's persistence. His voice was low and steady, carrying words learned in silence and years of waiting. The night held its breath, listening. But the first light, the desert transformed slowly. Pale gold seeped into the horizon. The cool night air warmed gently, and life began to stir anew. Birds called to one another from the groves. Somewhere close, the distant sound of running water teased the ears. Abraham rose, feeling the strength from his night of prayer still settled deep within. The memory of the angel's visit lingered, their gentle words, the assurance in their gaze. His heart felt anchored, ready for the day's tasks, the simple rhythms of tending flocks, and the quiet moments that stitched the hours together. Sarah appeared at the tent's entrance, her face glowing with the first light. Her eyes met Abraham's, a shared understanding passing in a breath. They needed to prepare before more visitors arrived. Hospitality was sacred here in their home. She gathered fresh bread, its warmth still soft, and the rich aroma filled the air. Their hands moved together, a practiced dance of preparation, offering what little they had with generous hearts. Fresh curds and milk were brought from their small herd, and a scent of olive oil joined the meal. This modest bounty was a symbol not just of survival, but of trust, trust in abundance yet to come. Abraham stepped outside, eyes skimming the horizon. The hills rolled gently in every direction, dotted with shrubs and wildflowers awakening in the morning light. He imagined the years ahead, the child's footsteps echoing along these paths, laughter spilling like water over stones. The promise held steady in his chest, like an ember not yet glowing but warm and certain. His gaze rested on a solitary fig tree, its branches twisting upward, leaves catching the rising sun's kiss. It stood resilient, no grand monument, just a humble tree, yet alive with possibility. Sarah joined him quietly. They did not need words. Their shared glance spoke volumes. Life had taught them patience. They had learned that sometimes the waiting itself was prayer, the quiet moments as sacred as spoken blessings. The day unfolded in gentle rhythms. Abraham tended the flocks, moving among the quieter paths where the grasses seemed greener. The animals responded to his calm, their soft murmurs blending with the whisper of the wind. His heart was a steady beat in tune with the land's own pulse. Sarah stayed near the tent, weaving strands of palm into simple baskets. Her fingers moved with grace and purpose, hands telling stories older than words. Between tasks she paused often, her eyes lifting toward the heavens as if seeking divine confirmation. A breeze stirred dust and petals alike, carrying the scent of fig and wild herbs. Somewhere beyond the hills, the faint clatter of a hammer marking the work of neighbors reached their ears, a reminder of community, invisible but present. Later, Abraham climbed again to the hilltop, the one from which he had once gazed out and felt small beneath the vast skies. This time he stood not overwhelmed but rooted. A soft light warmed his face, promising days filled with laughter and joyful cries, a family growing there in the heart of the desert. At the hill's crest, his thoughts drifted gently toward the future. The child, a living spark of divine promise, would come. The yearnings held quiet so long now began to hum with new life. He bowed his head, steadying his breath, and gave thanks not for what was, but for what would be. Evening found Abraham and Sarah again by their tent's entrance, the sky painted now in deep purples and soft pinks. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of blooming acacia and dry earth, a fragrant reminder of seasons turning in their steady course. Sarah's eyes shone softly as she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. They shared memories of their long journey, the parting from their homeland, the wandering, the promises made in the solitude of mind and spirit. Each recollection was a brick laid carefully into the foundation of their shared faith. The promise lingered between them like a quiet melody beneath the sounds of settling night. Later, Abraham placed his hand on the ground. The earth beneath was solid, real, holding ancient stories and timeless hope. Above, countless stars gleamed as if leaning close to witness the unfolding of a sacred covenant. He closed his eyes, feeling a pulse beneath his palm, a heartbeat in the dust. The promise had taken root. It was no longer a distant vision. It was life waiting patiently in the shape of a child, in the laughter that would soon fill their home, and in the unshakable trust of two hearts bound by love and faith. And as the desert night deepened, carrying the coolness of rest and renewal, Abraham and Sarah rested too, cradling their hope beneath the same stars that had guided them always. The journey was far from over, but with hearts steadfast and spirits calm, they embraced the days to come, confident in the faithful unfolding of promises kept. Night deepens, and the sky unfolds into a tapestry of countless stars, scattered gently across the vast canopy above Abraham and Sarah's dwelling. The cool breeze carries a whisper of the desert's timeless breath. Abraham rises quietly, his heart stirred by a sense both tender and urgent. He moves outside, where the earth remains warm beneath his feet, the fragrance of dry grass mingling with the soft, nearby rustle of olive branches. He lifts his eyes upward, tracing constellations that seem to murmur promises beyond his understanding. His thoughts drift to the many years they have waited, to the question etched into every silent moment. How could hope endure when the night stretches so long, when the barren earth offers no fruit? Yet here, under this boundless sky, faith roots itself with quiet strength. As dawn approaches, gentle light spills slowly over the hills, casting long shadows that ripple like waves over the land Abraham knows so intimately. He returns inside, where Sarah stirs, her breath a rhythmic comfort beside him. Together they share a simple meal, the bread soft and warm, the oil like liquid gold on their tongues. It is sustenance, yes, but also a ritual, a way of weaving their shared journey into the fabric of each new day. Suddenly, a distant sound breaks the restful stillness, a faint movement almost imperceptible. Abraham stands, listening. The wind shifts, and with it comes the faint echo of footsteps, steady and sure, crossing the rocky path outside. His heart quickens, not from fear but from a deep anchored recognition. There, at the edge of the clearing, three figures materialize. They move with quiet purpose, yet radiate a presence that fills the space with a subtle intensity. Abraham's breath catches, a fragile thread of awe weaving through the serenity of morning. He bows low, a gesture of honor and welcome, though words feel small in the face of such visitation. Sarah joins him where he stands, her eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and cautious hope. The visitors' faces are calm, their gaze steady and kind. One of them speaks, the voice soft and clear, like the gentle murmur of a brook over smooth stones. "Where is Sarah, your wife?" the visitor asks. "She is here," Abraham replies, his voice steady, carrying a quiet reverence. The visitors settle gently onto the ground, the dust rising faintly in the soft morning breeze. Abraham hastens to prepare a meal, not for guests of ordinary kind, but for messengers whose steps seem threaded with the divine. He moves deftly, mindful of the sacred trust entrusted to his home, setting before them fresh bread, curds, and milk, simple foods that carry the warmth of home. As they eat, a silence lingers, profound and expectant. Then, one of the figures speaks again, words filling the space with light and weight. "By this time next year, Sarah will hold a son." Sarah, who listens from nearby, laughs softly, a sound woven of disbelief and wonder. The years that mark her body, the seasons that have passed, like fleeting shadows, seem almost to mock the old hope. "After I am worn and the way of women is completed, shall I have leisure to bear a child?" she asks, her voice laced with tender skepticism. Yet the visitor's gaze holds a calm certainty. "Is anything too wonderful for the Lord?" the voice replies gently. In that moment, a stillness falls, deeper than the quiet night. Abraham watches Sarah, her eyes glimmering with a delicate mixture of laughter and tears. The promise, once a distant star, feels near enough to touch, a fragile seed bursting through centuries of waiting. The fig tree still stands beyond their door, a silent witness to this sacred encounter. As the visitors rise to leave, their presence lingers like a soft breeze, brushing across the hills. Abraham bows once more, a grateful heart whispering gratitude without words. Sarah stands beside him, her fingers entwined with his, sharing the fragile hope that now blooms between them. They watch as the three figures fade into the morning light, the promise of a son kindling a quiet fire of faith within them. The land, the sky, the resilient fig tree, all bear witness to a covenant renewed, a future unfolding beyond fear or doubt. Together, Abraham and Sarah turn back toward their home, the road ahead luminous with possibility. Each step moves them closer to the dawn of a new chapter, a life born from patience and trust, cradled by the sacred rhythms of time. And with each breath, they give thanks, not for what is seen, but for all that is yet to be. The sun had grown higher now, its gentle light flooding the wide open lands around Abraham's tent. The air, fresh and still, carried the soft rustle of leaves and the faint call of a distant bird. Abraham and Sarah stood quietly at the edge of their home, their eyes still searching the horizon, as if to catch one last glimpse of the visitors whose words had stirred something ancient and new within their hearts. Inside the tent, the warmth from the morning meal lingered, mingling with the hope that blossomed between the shadows and the light. Abraham moved with calm purpose, his hands fulfilling tasks that once felt heavy and burdensome, now lighter, almost sacred in their meaning. Each step he took seemed measured, each breath a soft prayer carried on the wind. Sarah settled by the low fire, her fingers tracing patterns in the earth beside her, as if trying to draw forth the promise herself. The laughter that had escaped her lips earlier now softened into a whispered smile, and in her eyes danced quiet tears of wonder. The years of waiting, the barren nights, and the silent prayers had not faded, but they were now transformed, like seeds pushed deep into the soil, ready to sprout against all odds. Their daily life resumed with gentle determination. Abraham tended the small flock, naming each sheep with affection born from years of care. Sarah gathered water and prepared simple bread, with hands seasoned by countless trials. Yet beneath these ordinary acts, a current of expectation pulsed quietly, like the heartbeat of the earth beneath their feet. The promise spoken by the visitor lingered in the stillness. Within this year, a son. The words seemed to hum softly, a melody woven into the fabric of their days. It was a thread of light they followed, one step at a time, not always fast, not always sure, but unwavering in its pull. Evenings settled around them like a gentle shawl. The stars appeared, each one a silent witness to the unfolding covenant. Abraham and Sarah often sat side by side beneath the vast expanse, their words sparse but significant. Sometimes they spoke of days long past, other times of the days yet to come. In those moments time felt suspended, as if the night itself held its breath in awe. Sarah found herself in moments of quiet reflection, her heart stretching toward a future she had never dared imagine. Every ache of the past had led to this delicate opening, this tender possibility. And when the laughter came again, soft and trembling, it was no longer born of disbelief, but of the sweet astonishment of hope reborn. Abraham, in the stillness of the night, would lift his eyes toward the heavens. The stars seemed to form a crown above him, a silent affirmation of the promise given. His faith was not loud or brash, but steady, like a flame sheltered from the wind. In the depth of his spirit, he held the vision of a child, of lineage and legacy, of a covenant written not just in stone or law, but in love and trust. Days passed, each one marked by small miracles, a bloom here where none was expected, a strength found in weary limbs, a whispered prayer answered in unexpected ways. The land that had been hard and unyielding began to soften under their care, mirroring the change stirring within their souls. Through it all, a quiet joy took root between them. It was not a roaring fire, but a gentle warmth, the kind that seeps into the marrow and settles deep. They moved through their days with a newfound lightness, their burdens eased by the invisible hand of grace. One evening, as a cool breeze danced through the tent flaps, Abraham and Sarah shared a simple meal. The flicker of the oil lamp cast gentle shadows on their faces, revealing lines traced by years and laughter. Words were few, but the silence between them was full, a sacred space where dreams were nurtured and faith held firm. "It is a beginning," Abraham said softly, his voice steady and sure. Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "A beginning," she echoed, her heart full. And as the night deepened, they rested side by side, wrapped in a quiet peace. The promise of a son, once distant and uncertain, now felt near, like the first light of dawn touching the horizon. In these still moments, the love that had carried them through countless seasons wrapped around them like a gentle cloak. Their journey was far from over, but with each breath, each heartbeat, the promise took root, growing stronger and sure. For the hand of the Lord was upon them, guiding them through the night, leading their steps into the dawn of a new and blessed chapter. And in their hearts hope waited, patient and steadfast, ready to bloom. The morning light poured softly through the open tent flap, casting a gentle glow upon Abraham and Sarah. The air was still and warm, as if carrying the whispers of promise that had long settled between them. In that quiet dawn, Abraham rose with calm certainty. His heart was steady, rooted in the faith that had carried him through decades. Sarah remained seated, her fingers weaving a simple cloth, her eyes distant yet serene. The thought of a son, once a wild flicker in her heart, was now a soft ember, glowing with patient faith. Outside, the small flock grazed quietly, their gentle bleating mingling with the rhythm of the wind. Suddenly, subtle movement just beyond the tent caught Abraham's eye. 3 figures approached, their steps deliberate and gentle on the earth. There was something different about them, a quiet radiance that did not disturb the natural calm, but seemed to blend with it. Abraham's heart lifted in silent recognition. These were not strangers passing by. As the visitors drew nearer, Abraham rose fully and greeted them with the reverence born of deep hospitality. Inviting them into the modest space, he offered water to wash their feet, a humble kindness that mirrored the grace he carried within. Sarah watched from the background, her heart swelling not with fear, but an inexplicable peace. The visitors sat under the shade of the tent, their eyes filled with a light that seemed to penetrate the veil of time itself. One of them spoke, a voice smooth and steady as a flowing stream. "Abraham, your faith has been heard. The promise spoken to you will be fulfilled in due season. Sarah, laughter will fill your home, a joy yet unseen." Sarah's hands stilled, the cloth in her lap untouched. The words were like a balm, soothing years of waiting and longing. Though she was well beyond the age of childbearing, the certainty in the visitor's gaze ignited hope, fertile and new. Abraham found his voice, gentle but firm. "How can this be, when the burden of years is upon us? How can Sarah bear a son?" The visitor smiled, a peaceful knowing in their eyes. "Nothing is too wondrous for the Creator of all things. Be assured that the promise stands. In 1 year's time, laughter shall echo within your walls." Sarah's lips curved into a smile, soft and sweet, the kind that speaks of quiet belief and surrender. The visitors remained for a while, their presence like a peaceful hymn saturating the shade. When it was time to leave, Abraham accompanied them to the edge of the tent, his heart full and unburdened. As the day unfolded, the promise settled into their souls more deeply. Sarah whispered prayers of gratitude into the gentle breeze. Abraham returned to his flock with renewed vigor, each step light with a faith that did not waver. Evening came, and the stars appeared as though aware of the sacred moment unfolding below. Sarah and Abraham sat side by side, hands entwined, their eyes lifted to the heavens. Words were few. Their silence spoke with the language of hope and trust. The small miracles that had begun to appear, buds sprouting where none were expected, streams flowing steadier, felt like gentle affirmations from the divine. The land around them seemed to pulse with life renewed, mirroring the faith blossoming in their hearts. In the stillness of the night, Sarah dreamed of a child's laughter, light and pure. Abraham dreamed of fields overflowing, their legacy being one of promise fulfilled. And in those dreams lay the quiet certainty that no waiting was wasted, no prayer unheard. Days passed gently, each one a thread in the tapestry of hope they were weaving. Abraham's hands, worn but steady, cared for the sheep, while Sarah's hands prepared meals with loving attention. Together they moved through their days with a grace that felt sacred. Their bond deepened not in grand gestures, but in moments of shared quiet, an exchanged glance, a soft touch, the comfort of presence. It was here, in this sacred companionship, that faith found its richest root. A promise whispered to them not only of a son, but of a future where their lineage would shine like stars scattered across the night sky. It was a future bathed in mercy, kindness, and divine guidance, a future they welcomed with open hearts. As time folded into itself, the fear of years past was replaced by the gentle unfolding of now. Abraham and Sarah embraced this present with a new understanding, that every moment carried the seed of eternity. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky with hues of amber and rose, Sarah felt a warmth blossom within her, a quiet assurance, stronger than any doubt. She looked upon Abraham, whose eyes mirrored her own steady flame of hope. Together, beneath the canvas of stars, they breathed in the peace that promised all things were made new. Their story was no longer just a tale of waiting, but of faithful receiving, a living testament to the grace that moves unseen but ever sure. In this sacred quiet, the world held its breath alongside them, a promise fulfilled not in thunder but in gentle light, not in clamor but in the hush of a newborn dawn. And so, with hearts full and eyes lifted, Abraham and Sarah stepped into the blessed unfolding, their souls anchored in the assurance of divine faithfulness, ready to embrace the laughter soon to fill their home. Days turned softly into weeks, each one painted with a quiet, sacred anticipation. Abraham moved about his daily tasks with a calmness that was newfound, as if the very air around him carried a gentle hum of promise. The sun, high above the ancient hills, cast long, warm shadows on the earth, and a breeze whispered softly through the olive branches. Sarah, too, felt the change, a lightness that settled in her heart like a gentle dawn. Her hands, once restless, now found purpose in small acts of care, tending the garden, baking bread, and weaving soft cloths. Each moment was touched by a silent hope, a tender wakefulness that made the hours shimmer with possibility. They often shared quiet conversations beneath the wide expanse of clear skies. Words were soft and few, but their eyes told stories of wonder and trust. Abraham would sometimes rest his hand upon Sarah's, his fingers tracing delicate circles. A silent prayer spun between them. As the days passed, the land around them seemed to participate in this unfolding miracle. The olive trees bore fruit heavier than in years before, their leaves shimmering with fresh vigor. The goats gave gentle, steady milk, and the fields yielded bounty, even without the toil they once required. It was as though the earth itself joined in the promise, nurturing the hope planted deep within their souls. One evening, as twilight painted the village in shades of mauve and silver, Abraham climbed a gentle hill nearby. He stood rooted in thought, gazing out at the tapestry of stars dotting the heavens. The vastness above spoke to him of endless possibilities, a covenant written across the sky in constellations of light. His thoughts returned always to the words of the visitors, that a son would come, a joy that would fill their home with laughter. This son, they said, would be the beginning of a lineage that would shine like the very stars overhead, countless as the cosmos, stretching into the forever that only the Creator knows. Sarah, too, found her nights filled with dreams woven from threads of hope and gratitude. She dreamed of a child's first smile, the warm softness of a small hand closing around hers, the sound of laughter blossoming like a gentle stream in the quietness of their home. The nights held a sacred stillness. Sometimes Sarah would rise quietly from her rest, stepping outside to breathe the cool, calm air. Lanterns glimmered softly in their dwelling, casting tender pools of light that seemed to hold the promise within their glow. In those moments of solitude, she would place her hand over her heart, feeling a deep, pulsing certainty that the impossible was drawing nearer. Abraham and Sarah's days unfolded with this blend of faith and serenity. They moved through their routines with a gentle grace, their footsteps echoing a rhythm older than time itself, a rhythm of waiting, trusting, and preparing to receive more than they could imagine. Their bond, strengthened by shared belief, became a beacon of light amid the ordinary. Neighbors noticed the peaceful dignity that now surrounded the couple, a quiet strength unshaken by questions or doubts. It was an invisible testament to the power of hope, living quietly within the heart. In the evenings, they would sit close together by the fire, sharing stories of their past journeys and whispers of the dreams they carried now. The flicker of flames danced in their eyes, mirroring the growing spark of anticipation that lit their spirits. One such evening, as the stars began to claim the sky, Abraham spoke softly, his voice rich with wonder. "Do you remember," he said, "how the visitors spoke of laughter filling our home? It is almost as if I can already hear it." Sarah smiled, her fingers gently weaving through the strands of his beard, a tender touch that conveyed all her affection and shared hope. "Yes," she replied, "I can almost feel the joy, like a gentle breeze just beyond the door, waiting to enter." Their love, intertwined with the promise, felt like the softest song, a lullaby covering their days and nights with peace. With each passing week, Sarah felt a tenderness growing within her, a warmth that was like a quiet flame burning softly in the depths of her being. It filled her with strength, a gentle knowing that the future held a blessing beyond words. The whole household transformed into a sanctuary of faith. Every corner seemed touched by an invisible grace, as if the breath of the divine hovered nearby, guiding their steps and securing their hopes. Even the servants and those who cared for their home sensed the subtle shift, and they too shared in the whispered prayers that floated through the air like delicate fragrance. Time, once a whisper of uncertainty, steadily became a companion of trust. Abraham and Sarah welcomed each new dawn with quiet hearts, knowing the promise rested gently upon them. One morning, as the sun stretched its fingers over the horizon, Sarah stood by the window watching the rosy light filter through the trees. Abraham approached from behind, his presence warm and steadfast. With a soft smile, she turned to face him and spoke, her voice a calm melody. "Our home is ready for the laughter." Abraham nodded, his eyes reflecting the glow of the rising sun, and our hearts are open. In the stillness of that moment, the world seemed to pause, as though holding a breath of wonder alongside them. The promise, once spoken by strange visitors beneath the ancient oaks, now felt tangible, a living thread woven into the fabric of their lives. Together they stood, hand in hand, ready to embrace the miracle that would soon fill their days with joy, their nights with peace, and their hearts with an everlasting light. And so in the quiet village under the vast heavens, the story of Abraham and Sarah continued, a story of faith, hope, and the gentle unfolding of the Creator's promise, timeless as the stars and as tender as a whispered prayer. The days that followed moved like soft breezes over calm waters. Each morning light spilled gently upon the faces of Abraham and Sarah, touching them with a quiet grace that seemed to deepen with every dawn. The world around them continued in its steady rhythm, yet beneath the surface of everyday life, a sacred anticipation hummed softly, weaving through their hearts and minds. Abraham found himself pausing often beneath the vast sky, his eyes tracing the path of wandering clouds, his thoughts carried beyond the reach of sight. He breathed in the cool air, feeling the pulse of life in the soil beneath his feet, and the ancient whispers in the rustling leaves. Sometimes, the memory of the visitor's words rose unbidden, a promise so tender that it felt as if the whole earth itself were leaning in to watch a miracle unfold. Sarah too moved with a new softness about her. Though shadows of years past lingered in the curve of her smile, there was a radiant light that gathered in her days. The evening stars knew her by name now, as she often stepped beyond the door, her hand resting lightly on her belly, a silent song of hope humming through her being. Their home echoed with the quiet sounds of life in gentle motion, soft footsteps, whispered blessings, the rhythmic clinking of simple tasks being done with love. Their household, once filled primarily with the routine of tending flocks and preparing meals, had taken on the slow cadence of sacred waiting. Each member seemed touched by the unseen. They moved with a reverence that elevated even the smallest moments into acts of faith. In the glow of dusk, Abraham would find Sarah seated near the fire, her eyes reflecting the flickering flames as she recounted stories not only from their past, but of dreams yet to come. Her voice softened with an almost sacred tenderness as she spoke of laughter filling the walls, of tiny fingers wrapped around hers, and the joy that would spill like sunshine through the rooms. The stories were woven with threads of hope, drawing them closer, binding them in a unity that time alone could not unravel. Neighbors who stopped by noticed the difference too. There was a new stillness about the couple, an unspoken peace that seemed to wrap the household in a protective embrace. Curious, some dared to ask if the promised child was near, their voices tinted with wonder and cautious joy. Abraham and Sarah met their questions with smiles that spoke of deep, abiding trust, reminding all who watched that sometimes the truest miracles are those quietly nurtured in the heart. As days unfolded, the small household prepared in gentle ways. Tiny clothes were woven with careful stitches. The woven cradle stood ready near the hearth, flanked by soft blankets hand-spun by loving hands. Though the child had not yet arrived, the anticipation was a living presence, filling each corner with a silent hymn of gratefulness. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of amber and rose, Abraham and Sarah sat hand in hand beneath the wide expanse of twilight. The air was heavy with the fragrance of blooming trees and the sweet promise of night. Abraham's voice was a low murmur, filled with quiet wonder as he spoke softly to Sarah. "Our joy is near as surely as the stars will rise." Sarah's eyes shimmered with tears that were neither sorrow nor fear, but the overflow of a heart brimming with hope. "It is as if I can already hear the laughter," she whispered, "a melody that will forever change this world." In that moment, time seemed to weave itself into a delicate tapestry, each thread vibrant with the colors of faith, love, and expectancy. They leaned into that sacred silence, resting together in the confidence that the promise was not just spoken, but living, breathing beside them, waiting to be born. The night deepened, wrapping the land in velvet quiet. Sarah's hand, worn yet tender, traced a small circle on her belly, grounding herself in the mystery blossoming within. Abraham's protection was steady and sure, his spirit a fortress built not of stone, but of unwavering belief. They were a sanctuary of peace amidst the quiet stirring of the world, the prepared heart where the divine would soon rest. As days turned softly into weeks, the embrace of their hope never loosened. Each morning, they greeted the dawn with prayers whispered like a lullaby, gentle and resolute. The promise, once a distant echo, grew clear and near, a sacred flame, illuminating the path ahead. The household remained centered in faith. Even the birds that sang at dawn seemed to carry the message of anticipation, their melodies a delicate serenade under the endless sky. And then, one still morning, when the sun's first light spilled gently over the hills, a new breath entered the world. The sacred promise, held so tenderly within, began to reveal itself, a quiet stirring that spoke of life, of fulfillment, of a joy so profound it danced upon the very air. Abraham and Sarah welcomed this dawn with open hearts and peaceful spirits, ready to receive the miracle that would forever change the fabric of their lives. In that serene moment, the laughter once foretold felt close enough to touch, a blessing that spoke not just of a child, but of hope fulfilled, of love unbound, and the gentle light that remains when faith and grace walk hand in hand. In the quiet moments after the arrival of the child, the household settled into a new rhythm. The soft breath of the baby, the gentle rustle of linen, the warmth of the hearth, all these whispered a peace that seemed to cradle the very walls around them. Abraham and Sarah, now parents, carried within themselves a renewed grace, a deepened silence woven with joy. The days passed with the tender hum of care. Sarah would sit by the window, the child resting in her arms, while sunlight spilled across her face. The delicate laughter of the newborn was a melody that filled every corner of their home, blending with the distant call of the morning birds and the slow stirring of the earth outside. Abraham watched often from the threshold, eyes steady with gratitude. Their journey, long marked by waiting and hope, had brought them to this serene moment. Each breath felt like a prayer answered, each heartbeat a testament to the faith that had sustained them. He spoke softly to the child, voices carrying through the room a reverence as old as the skies. Neighbors, too, noticed the gentle transformation. When they passed by, they could feel the quiet presence of something sacred within Abraham and Sarah's dwelling. The air itself seemed imbued with peace, a calmness that invited reflection and gratitude. Their smiles were met with warm nods, silent acknowledgments of a promise fulfilled. At dusk, when the world outside slowed its hurried steps, and the sky blushed with the softest hues, Abraham and Sarah would draw close together. Beneath the painted canopy of twilight, they shared stolen moments, an embrace wrapped in boundless love and unspoken thanks. The new life between them was a bridge renewed, a covenant alive in their hearts. Night after night, the baby's gentle sighs punctuated the stillness. Soft lullabies rose from Sarah's lips, ancient songs threaded with hope, woven into the fabric of time. Abraham held vigil beside her, hands gently resting on the cradle as he offered silent prayers that this peace would endure. The household became a sanctuary, its walls steeped not only in the warmth of firelight, but also in the quiet miracle of faith given form. They understood, deeply, that this presence was more than a child. It was a living symbol of grace, of something sacred breathed into the very earth. With the passage of weeks, the child grew strong, eyes wide with the quiet wisdom of infancy. Abraham and Sarah's work was tender and constant. They taught their baby the gentle language of the hearth's flames, the soft call of the morning breeze, and the sacred pulse of the stars above. In this sacred space, time seemed to fold gently. Each dawn brought a new blessing, each sunset a whispered benediction. The child's hands reached toward the light, fingers brushing the soft folds of cloth, feeling the warmth that surrounded them. Abraham found renewed purpose in his days. Each task, from gathering wood to tending the small garden that bordered their home, became a humble offering. His heart was full, his spirit steady. He felt the presence of angels in the quiet, the same visitors who once knelt at his doorstep, who had carried promises on their wings. Sarah's strength deepened with each passing day. Though the journey had tested her body and spirit, the arrival of their child was a balm. Her laughter, once scarce and tentative, now filled the halls like a bright fragrance. She often caught herself in the stillness, marveling at the life they had created, a miracle cradled in tender hands. One afternoon, as the sun painted the sky with lines of gold and rose, Abraham held the child close beneath the open skies. The winds whispered through the olive branches, carrying with them a sacred stillness. It was then that he spoke softly, words slow and reverent. "We are blessed beyond the measure of days. This gift, this light, is the fulfillment of a promise as ancient as the stars." Sarah rested her head against his shoulder, feeling the rhythm of his heart. Together, they listened to the world around them, the rustling leaves, the calls of distant birds, the gentle rustle of their child's breath. In those moments they knew they lived within a sacred story, one woven with faith, hope, and the quiet strength of love. Even as their child grew, so did their understanding of the divine presence that hovered softly over their home. Each smile, each small step, was a tender reminder of the mystery that had unfolded before them. They knew that life, in all its fragile beauty, was a blessing that required gentle care and deep gratitude. As seasons slowly turned, the light in their home did not dim. Rather, it grew, a quiet flame of hope and enduring peace. Friends and neighbors now came not only to see the child, but to witness the serene joy that radiated from Abraham and Sarah. In the glow of evening fires, stories were shared once again, the stories of past, present, and future, now deepened by the experience of their miracle. Abraham's voice, steady and calm, recounted the visit of the angels, the sacred promise, and the fulfillment found in their child. Sarah's eyes often gleamed with tears, her heart brimming with the sacred wonder of life. She whispered prayers not just for their child, but for the world beyond, for all who waited, all who hoped. And so the days unfolded, a gentle tapestry of light and shadow, faith and fulfillment. The household stood as a quiet testament, a living sanctuary where patience was crowned with blessing, where every breath was an echo of grace. At the close of each day, Abraham and Sarah would look toward the heavens, their spirits lifted in silent gratitude. The stars above shone softly, as if guarding their promise, as if holding tender watch over their joy. In the gentle closing of this chapter, the story of their waiting, their faith, and their love becomes a quiet light in the darkness, a reminder that even in the longest seasons of hope, grace will arrive softly, bringing with it the fulfillment of every true heart's prayer.